Hi, I'm Stephanie, and I'm going to share with you 6 different reasons why I've decided to work as a nurse practitioner in hospice. Number 1 is the scheduling. I love my schedule in hospice. As a working mom with still a couple of kids at home, in my role at the current company that I'm at, I have a little bit more flexibility than I would have in a clinic or hospital setting as I've worked in the past. Number 2, I love the variety. Every day is different. In hospice, we work with all types of patients, all different ages. I love getting to see different types of families. I love working in different areas and getting to go into the home setting and the nursing home setting. Every day is different. I never know what I'm going to get, and I just really love that. The third thing I love about working in hospice, I love the road time. For me, it's sort of a little bit of quiet me time. I can catch up on podcasts or just have a little bit of peace and quiet in my day, and I've just really grown to love it. Now I'm going to share my last 3 reasons which are really speaking to you from my heart. I, first of all, love working with older adults. They are probably my favorite population. I enjoy all of my patients, don't get me wrong, but there's just something about that older generation. Maybe it's because I've always been an old soul, I don't know, but my whole family, we're 4 generations of nurses. My mom and her moms. I can remember going to my grandmother's workplace, which was a nursing home when I was a young girl. I can remember walking the hall, talking to each person and just chit-chatting away, just like I do now. And it was no different then. I can even remember the first time I saw dementia. I can remember a woman that was talking like she was in the past and like she was talking to her children, and you know, there were no children in the room. I remember being like really curious about that and talking to my grandmother about it. Anyway, these are like early childhood memories. Even as I got older, I always ended up with the older generation. I did sales at one point. My favorite times were when I would be in a home where there was a grandmother or a great-grandmother present. And when I got into the medical field, I first worked for a psychiatric company, and I would go out and find patients. So I would screen people in nursing home settings that were maybe struggling with depression or some type of mental illness. I was a young adult then, and I remember becoming, for the first time, just so aware of like all of the loss and the things that happen to the older generation. They've lived to be of old age. They have outlived a lot of their family and even their children sometimes, and they've had to give up their possessions and lose the ability to drive and even to walk sometimes. And I just remember, you know, feeling just so compassionate and just drawn to them. And I sat for a couple when I was in nursing school many years ago. They were just fantastic. The wife was in her early 90s, and she was very athletic. She would put on her sneakers every day, and she would walk 3 miles and go to the gym. And her husband had Alzheimer's dementia, and I just remember forming like a really special bond with him. And after we lost her, he really would only respond and do certain things that were required for his care. He would only cooperate with me at times. And so I helped the family with getting him placed in the right home. And that was around the time I knew that that was probably going to be my calling, was to work, you know, with that older generation. I really love that about hospice. I get to work with a lot of people in that population. And not only that, but like in their home setting, like where they live. It's really neat. And so I just really, truly, I just love that. Another reason why I do hospice, and this is also very specific to me, and it may not be for everyone, I feel so privileged to be able to walk with a family through one of the most sacred experiences of their life. The birth and the death are the 2 most sacred experiences in someone's life. Although death is not as joyful as birth, it's still a very sacred, special time. A lot of people in hospice also have a passion for birth. In fact, coincidentally, the wonderful nurse who delivered my baby is now one of my favorite hospice nurses. I almost went into midwifery. I chose to become a nurse practitioner instead. All that to say, it's very common to have a passion for both sacred experiences. I just consider it a privilege to be able to witness that season in a family's life, to walk with them through it, to just see these families. I mean, the love that comes out and how these families come together to support one another, and just seeing them walk with their loved one through their final, you know, months or weeks or days. It's just really special. It's hard sometimes, but it's also very special, and I consider it an even greater privilege to be able to serve them during that season, because it's so hard. And if we can make it just a little bit better for them, if we could show them how death can be, even though it's really sad and it's really hard, it can also be really beautiful and really special. And it's an honor to be able to care for them in that season. And so that's a really big reason why I chose hospice. hospice. The last reason I work in hospice, I didn't think about this a lot before I started hospice. I realized it right away. I'm so grateful for it. But it's the things that I learned from my patients. You know, it's really something to work in an area where you contemplate your mortality all the time, because you see people that are having to face their mortality every day. They teach you so much. I really appreciate that. It's really enriched my life for the better, and I'm grateful for it. The biggest thing that I have learned from my hospice patients is what's important. Although we might start off in hospice talking a lot about the past and having great conversations about their career and their experience in the military or whatever wonderful things they did, and that's always fun and special, but toward the end of the journey, when they are really getting down to the business of what's happening, it really becomes apparent of what's important. There's no work awards sprinkled on their walls right by their bedside. There's no medals or all of their accomplishments that they're surrounded by. What I've learned from my patients is that the most important things are our faith, God, our family, and the people around us. And that is what shows up at the end of life. And that is all those patients end up caring about in the very end. That's what matters. What's on the walls is pictures of their grandkids and cards that their great-grandkids made for them. And they're surrounded by their children and their friends and their pastor. It's very apparent what's important. I'm really grateful for that. It's something that I know not a lot of people get to see in their job. And as difficult as hospice can be emotionally, it's also a real gift, and I'm grateful for it, and I don't take it for granted. Thank you for listening to my story. If you'd like to hear more, subscribe below. I hope you have a great day.